Let me tell you something uncomfortable, something that most people feel deep down but never have the courage to question. Everything you've been taught about money is incomplete. Not completely wrong, but carefully designed to keep you limited. From the moment you entered school, you were trained to follow rules, respect authority, and chase approval. You learned how to memorize, how to pass exams, and how to fit into a system that rewards obedience, not awareness. But no one ever sat you down and explained how money actually works in the real world. No one told you why some people spend their entire lives working hard and still struggle financially, while others seem to operate on a completely different level where money flows towards them. That difference is not luck and it's not talent, it's understanding. Because money is not just something you earn, it's something you either understand or get controlled by. From a young age, you were given a script that sounded safe and logical. Study hard, get good grades, secure a stable job, and your life will be set. It sounds like a perfect plan, but it is built on an outdated reality. There was a time when this formula worked, when jobs provided stability and long-term growth. But that world no longer exists in the same way. Today, a job often means trading your freedom for a predictable paycheck. You wake up, follow instructions, complete tasks, and get paid just enough to keep going. And the most dangerous part is that it feels normal. No one questions it because everyone is doing the same thing. But think about it for a second. You are literally exchanging your time, the most valuable resource you have, for money that disappears the moment you spend it. And then you repeat the cycle again and again. Here's the truth that most people avoid. You were never taught how to make money work for you. You were only taught how to work for money. And that difference changes everything. When you work for money, you are always chasing it. You are always dependent on your next paycheck, your next opportunity, your next approval. But when money works for you, the entire dynamic shifts. You are no longer just surviving, you are building. You are creating systems, assets, and opportunities that continue to grow even when you are not actively working. And the reason this was never taught to you is not accidental. A system that depends on workers cannot function if everyone becomes financially independent. If people truly understood how money works, they would stop playing small and start thinking differently. And once you start thinking differently, you can never go back to the same mindset again. Money works on rules, but not the kind you were taught in school. These rules are silent, invisible, and brutally honest. They don't care about your degrees, your intentions, or how hard you work. They only respond to how well you understand them. The first rule is simple, but most people ignore it their entire lives. The rich don't chase money, they build assets. An asset is anything that puts money into your pocket without needing your constant effort. It works even when you don't. It grows even when you rest. This could be a business, an investment, digital content, or any system that continues to produce income over time. Now compare that to how most people live. They spend their energy chasing income, and the moment they stop working, the income stops too. That is not freedom, that is dependency disguised as stability. The second rule is even more uncomfortable. Most people are not poor because they don't earn enough. They are poor because they spend everything they earn. The system trains you to upgrade your lifestyle every time your income increases. You get a raise, you buy better things, you earn more, you spend more, and before you realize it, you are stuck in a cycle where your expenses grow just as fast as your income. You feel like you are progressing, but in reality, you are standing in the same place. This is why people who earn a decent salary still feel broke, because income alone does not create wealth. Discipline and direction do. Now here's where it gets interesting. The wealthy think differently about money. They don't ask, what can I buy? They ask, what can I build? Instead of focusing on temporary satisfaction, they focus on long-term growth. They delay gratification not because they enjoy waiting, but because they understand the bigger picture. Every dollar they earn is not just money, it is a tool that can be used to create more money. And once you start seeing money this way, your entire mindset begins to shift. You stop wasting it on things that don't matter, and you start using it to build something that does. Another rule that changes everything is leverage. Leverage means using something to multiply your results without increasing your effort. It could be technology, like the internet, which allows one person to reach millions. It could be people, like a team that helps you scale your work. Or it could be systems that run automatically in the background. The point is, leverage allows you to break free from the limitation of time. Because without leverage, your income will always be limited by how many hours you can work. And no matter how hard you try, there are only 24 hours in a day. Now let's talk about something even more uncomfortable, something most people sense but never question deeply enough. Why were you never taught any of this? Why did school spend years preparing you for exams, but not a single class preparing you for real financial life? The answer is not complicated, but it is difficult to accept. The system was never designed to create financially independent thinkers. It was designed to create people who can follow instructions, meet deadlines, and fit into predefined roles. In other words, it was designed to create workers, not owners. From the beginning, you were trained to avoid mistakes, to fear failure, and to always choose the safe path. But money does not reward safety. It rewards calculated risk, creativity, and the ability to think differently from the crowd. Think about how school works. You are given a fixed syllabus, a fixed pattern, and a fixed way of thinking. You are rewarded for giving the correct answer, not for questioning the question itself. Over time, this conditions your mind to look for approval instead of truth. You start believing that there is always one right path, one correct way to live your life. But in the real world, especially when it comes to money, there is no single path. There are multiple ways to build wealth, but they all require one thing that school never encouraged: independent thinking. And independent thinking is dangerous to a system that depends on people following the same path. Another reason you were never taught this is because financial education threatens control. If people truly understood how money works, they would stop relying completely on jobs. They would start building assets, investing, and creating their own opportunities. And when that happens, the traditional structure of working, earning, and depending starts to weaken. The system needs people to keep participating in the same cycle. It needs people to believe that working harder is the only way forward. Because once you realize that working smarter, building systems, and creating value is more powerful, you begin to step outside that cycle. Here's the harsh reality. If you follow the exact same path as everyone else, you will get the exact same results as everyone else. And those results are usually average. Average income, average lifestyle, average freedom. And average is not safe like it looks. It is expensive. Because it often means working your entire life just to maintain a lifestyle that still leaves you worried about money. It means delaying your dreams, compromising your choices, and constantly depending on something outside your control. That is not true security. That is controlled survival. The moment you understand this, something shifts inside you. You begin to see things differently. You start questioning what you once accepted without thinking, and that is where change begins. Not in your bank account, but in your mindset. Because once your mindset changes, your actions follow. And once your actions change, your results cannot stay the same. Now that you see the system for what it really is, the next question becomes more important than anything else. What actually works? Not theory, not motivational quotes, but real principles that can change your financial direction. The first principle is simple, but most people ignore it for years. Income is important, but ownership is everything. If you do not own something that generates money, you are always starting from zero. Every month becomes a reset. You work, you earn, you spend, and then you start again. There is no momentum, no growth, just repetition. But the moment you start building something that pays you repeatedly, even in small amounts, everything begins to change. That is the shift from working for money to having money work for you. The second principle is understanding the true value of time. Most people say time is money, but that is not entirely accurate. Time is far more valuable than money. You can lose money and earn it back, but once time is gone, it is gone forever. And yet, most people spend their entire lives trading time for money without ever questioning it. They believe that working more hours is the solution, but that only deepens the trap. The real goal is not to work more, but to create systems that reduce your dependence on time. This is where leverage becomes powerful, because leverage allows you to earn beyond your hours. It allows you to multiply your efforts in ways that are impossible through hard work alone. Another principle that changes everything is understanding value. Money does not follow effort, it follows value. You can work extremely hard at something that creates little value and still struggle financially. At the same time, you can create something once that provides value to many people and continue earning from it for years. This is why some people earn more in a month than others earn in a year, even though they are not working harder. They are creating more value. And once you understand this, your focus shifts. You stop asking how to work more hours and you start asking how to create something that matters. There is also a mindset shift that most people miss. You have to stop thinking like a consumer and start thinking like a creator. A consumer looks at money and thinks about what they can buy. A creator looks at money and thinks about what they can build. This one shift alone can change your entire financial future. Because when you focus on building instead of buying, you start making decisions that lead to growth instead of temporary satisfaction. And finally, you need patience. Real financial growth does not happen overnight. It takes time, consistency, and a willingness to stay focused even when results are slow. Most people quit too early because they expect immediate success. But the truth is, Building something meaningful always takes longer than you think. The key is to stay in the game long enough for your efforts to compound. At this point, you understand more than most people ever will, but understanding alone does not change anything. Action does. And this is where most people fail, not because they are not capable, but because they stay comfortable. They learn, they watch, they get motivated, and then they go back to the same routine. If you want different results, you cannot keep repeating the same patterns. You have to break the cycle even if it feels uncomfortable at first. And it will feel uncomfortable because you are stepping outside the structure that you have been following your entire life. Start small, but start with intention. You do not need a perfect plan, you need movement. Learn a skill that can generate income outside of a traditional job. It could be something digital, something creative, or something that solves a real problem. The goal is not just to earn more, but to create flexibility. Once you have even a small source of income that is not tied directly to your time, your perspective begins to change. You realize that there are other ways to operate, other ways to grow, other ways to live. At the same time, begin understanding how money grows. Learn about investing, saving, and managing risk. You do not need to become an expert overnight, but you do need awareness. Because if you do not understand how money moves, you will always struggle to control it. And the more control you have, the more options you create for yourself. Options are what give you freedom, the ability to choose how you spend your time, where you live, and what you focus on. There will be moments when you feel lost, confused, or even doubtful. That is normal. Every person who has ever built something meaningful has gone through that phase. The difference is that they did not stop. They kept going even when it was uncertain, even when it was slow, even when no one else understood what they were trying to do. And over time, those small efforts turned into something bigger. That is how growth works. Not instantly, but gradually. So here is the challenge. Stop waiting for the perfect moment because it does not exist. Stop waiting for someone to guide you step by step because no one is coming to do that. Take responsibility for your own financial future. Start learning, start building, and start thinking differently from today. Because at the end of the day, you only have two choices. You can spend your entire life working for money, constantly trading your time just to survive, or you can learn how to make money work for you and build something that gives you freedom. The system will not change for you, but you have the power to change how you play the game. And the moment you do, everything begins to shift. The only question that matters now is simple. Are you going to stay where you are, or are you finally ready to move forward and take control of your life? There is something else you need to understand, something that quietly controls most people without them even realizing it, and that is the illusion of security. You were taught to believe that a stable job equals safety, that a monthly paycheck is the ultimate form of protection against uncertainty. But if you really think about it, that sense of security is fragile. It depends on something you do not fully control. Your income depends on decisions made by someone else, a company, a manager, or a system that can replace you the moment it needs to. And yet, people hold on to this illusion because it feels comfortable. It feels predictable. But comfort and growth rarely exist in the same place. Real security does not come from a job. It comes from your ability to create value in different ways. It comes from having multiple sources of income, from having skills that are adaptable, and from building things that do not rely on a single point of failure. When you only depend on one source, you are always at risk, no matter how stable it looks from the outside. But when you diversify, when you build different streams, even small ones, you reduce that risk. You create a foundation that is stronger, more flexible, and more aligned with how the real world works. Another truth that most people avoid is that fear plays a huge role in keeping them stuck. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of losing what they already have. These fears feel real, and in many ways they are, but they also act like invisible barriers. They stop you from trying, from experimenting, from taking even small steps towards something different. And the longer you listen to that fear, the stronger it becomes. But here's what most people do not realize. The cost of staying the same is often greater than the cost of trying and failing. Because when you stay in the same place, you guarantee that nothing changes. You also need to understand the power of consistency. Most people look for big breakthroughs, dramatic changes, and overnight success. But real progress rarely looks like that. It looks slow, almost boring at times. It is built on small actions repeated over and over again. Learning a skill, improving it, applying it, and then improving again. Investing small amounts regularly instead of waiting for the perfect moment. Building something step by step instead of expecting instant results. These small actions may not feel significant in the moment, but over time they compound. and that compounding effect is what creates real change. There is also a mental shift that needs to happen. You have to stop seeing money as the goal and start seeing it as a tool. When money becomes the goal, you start chasing it blindly. You make decisions based on short-term gains instead of long-term value. But when you see money as a tool, you begin to use it strategically. You invest it, you allocate it, you direct it toward things that grow over time. And that shift changes how you approach every financial decision you make. Now, everything comes down to one final realization. And this is where most people either change their life or go back to the same cycle forever. No one is coming to fix your financial situation. No teacher, no system, no perfect opportunity is going to suddenly appear and hand you the life you want. That idea itself is part of the conditioning. You were trained to wait, to follow, to depend, but the moment you take full responsibility, everything shifts. Because responsibility is not pressure, it is power. It means your future is no longer controlled by circumstances alone, but by your decisions. You have to accept that the path ahead is not going to be clear. There will be confusion, mistakes, and moments where you question everything. But that is part of the process. Every person who has built something meaningful has faced uncertainty. The difference is that they kept moving anyway. They did not wait for perfect clarity. They acted with partial understanding and improved along the way. That is how progress works in the real world. Not in straight lines, but through trial, error, and adjustment. At some point, you also have to redefine what success means to you. For most people, success is tied to appearances. A good job, a certain lifestyle, approval from others. But real success is control. Control over your time, your decisions, and your direction. It is waking up and choosing what to do, instead of being forced into routines you did not design. And that level of control only comes when you build something that gives you independence. Not instantly, but gradually through consistent effort and smarter choices. You will also notice something interesting as you move forward. The more you grow, the fewer people will understand what you are doing. Some will question you, some will doubt you, and some will even try to pull you back into what feels familiar. That is normal. Because when you step outside the system, you challenge the beliefs of those who are still inside it, but you cannot let that stop you. You have to stay focused on your own path, even when it feels lonely at times. So here is the final truth. You already have everything you need to start. You do not need perfect conditions, unlimited resources, or complete knowledge. What you need is the willingness to begin and the discipline to continue. Because once you start moving in the right direction, even slowly, you are already ahead of most people who never take that first step. At the end of the day, your life will be shaped by the choices you make repeatedly. You can choose comfort, familiarity, and short-term ease, or you can choose growth, uncertainty, and long-term freedom. Both paths are difficult in their own way, but only one leads to a life where you are truly in control. The system will keep running exactly as it is, but you do not have to stay stuck in it. The decision is yours now. Not tomorrow, not someday, but right now. What you do next will decide everything.